Minister Abdelatty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
Egypt has been working very hard for a long time now to de-escalate the conflict in Gaza. Now we see that there have been strikes in Lebanon on Hezbollah by Israel. And I want to get your thoughts on how concerned you are about that escalation.
Well, of course, we're extremely concerned with the current situation in our region and the high tension. And there is a big possibility to drag the whole region into a full-fledged regional war. So that's why we are pushing very hard for de-escalation. We are against and we are condemning all kinds of unilateral and provocative actions, and including the policy of assassination. That's condemned by the government of Egypt. And we are working very hard for de-escalation. And we are with the view that we have to address the root causes of the problems in our neighborhood, which is the ongoing aggression on Gaza. We are working with regional powers, with global powers, including beside the United States. We are working with China, with Russia, with India, with Brazil, with all different regional and global powers, with one objective: to push for an immediate ceasefire and to strike a deal on Gaza to release all hostages. And that's, of course, a major guarantee for de-escalation, and not to give excuse to any country or non-state actor to exploit the suffering of the Palestinians in order to promote a specific agenda.
You bring unique perspective to this situation. You have a long career in diplomacy, but you worked at the Egyptian embassy in Israel. You were also director of Palestinian affairs at the foreign ministry. So what do you think you can bring to the situation as these negotiations continue? And are you optimistic about it?
Unfortunately, I stopped to be optimistic, because, as I mentioned, we reached the moment of truth to reach a deal many times. But whenever we're being very close, one party is backing off. So, according to our experiences, we need 2 or 3 conditions in order to have more conducive environment for moving ahead. One is, of course, the political will must be there. And secondly, applying more pressure from the international community, because without that, unfortunately, you are leaving everything to one party to decide, and maybe to take the whole region hostage to a specific narrow-minded political agenda. That's why more coordinated efforts from the international community is extremely important. And thirdly, of course, adherence to the principles enshrined in the UN Charter and international humanitarian law and the international law. And this is the responsibility of the international community to push for it, because public opinion in our region is extremely angry with what they perceived as hypocrisy, sometimes as double standard when it comes to the issue of Gaza, because they are human beings like others.
African countries are demanding 2 seats on the UN Security Council as permanent members. What are your thoughts on that? Could that help in any way?
Yes, of course. We have to lift the historical injustice on Africa. Africa is a great continent, and we deserve better understanding, better representation in the UN, and to lift this historical injustice. We have the Africa consensus, of course, as it was presented in the CERT declaration, and then Azzolini consensus. It's not only 2 permanent seats, but also in addition to another 2 unpermanent seats of the Security Council. This is a great continent, more than 54 countries. We must have representation in the UN system, in the Security Council, because you cannot talk about reforming the governance of the UN system without reforming the Security Council.
Egypt's president visited China earlier this year. He signed cooperation agreements with Chinese President Xi Jinping that coincided with the 10th anniversary of the Egypt-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Also a big player in the Belt and Road Initiative. Talk to us about this relationship between these 2 ancient civilizations.
Well, we value, of course, our very close relationship with China and its strategic nature. As you correctly mentioned, we are now celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of the launching of our strategic partnership with China. And don't forget the fact that Egypt was the first Arab and African countries to recognize the People's Republic of China in 1956. So we are proud of this. We have to build on this solid foundation to do more with regard, of course, further deepening and enhancing our bilateral cooperation on everything, on political consultation, the exchange of visits between our 2 leaders, our 2 countries. We have also diversified relationship on trade, on industry, on also on investment. We value the presence of consortium of Chinese companies in the Suez Canal Economic Zone led by TIDA, the great Chinese company. We also value the presence of Chinese companies in Egypt, in the Egyptian economy, and especially in the new capital city in Cairo, in Egypt. And we have the iconic tower there, which is built with Chinese expertise. This is the highest tower in Africa. Also we have cultural contacts and interactions with China. And we, as I mentioned, we value this strategic relationship, and we need to do more and more, because China is a huge, big, important country and a global power, and Egypt is a major and big and great regional power, and we're representing 2 great civilizations. So with the common interest and the common objectives, we can do more and more for the benefits of the 2 friendly countries, leaders, and peoples, of course.
Foreign Minister Abdelatty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.